The Broken Blueprint by Vance Farrell, narrated by Samuel Nathan. Patrice C. An Important Letter. The 1908 Baden Letter to Rubel. In the spring of 1908, John Baden, the pioneer administrator at Loma Linda, wrote a letter to Dr. W. A. Rubel at the General Conference. Baden envisioned a medical school founded entirely on spirit of prophecy principles. It is unfortunate that within a few years after 1908, the situation at the Loma Linda Medical School began to change. But in this one letter, we find a remarkable overview of the entire controversy. Wells Allen Rubel, 1868 to 1961, had been a missionary to South Africa and later principal of Claremont Union College in that nation. Returning to America, he graduated in 1906 from Kellogg's American Medical Missionary College with an MD degree. Rubel, at the time this letter was written to him, was prominent in a medical advisory role at the General Conference in Tacoma Park. Unknown to both Baden and himself, 2 years later, in 1910, Rubel would be elected to the presidency of CME, 1910 to 1914, and chairmanship of the Medical Missionary Council, which in 1913 became the General Conference Medical Department. In this letter, Baden was trying to impress upon Rubel the importance of adhering to spirit of prophecy principles at the Loma Linda Medical Schools. Baden was only 46 years of age when he wrote this letter. After the changeover began in 1910, he continued on as a non-medical manager at CME for several years. However, from 1910 onwards, he was shut out from the major curricular policy changes which took place. In 1916, Baden was transferred to the management of the Paradise Valley Sanitarium. Before his death in 1942, he must have wept often at the course taken later by the College of Medical Evangelists. It had become a look-alike medical drug training institution, mirroring the other medical schools in the land. Keep in mind that this year, 1908, the laws by the denomination of the Battle Creek Sanitarium and the American Medical College in Battle Creek had been finalized. John Harvey Kellogg and his medical and legal associates had effectively stolen it. See the present author's book, The Omega of Apostasy, mentioned earlier, and now in our Doctrinal History Track book for the complete story. Our leaders were wondering what direction the medical training school at Loma Linda should take. As the following letter indicates, by 1908, there were 4 different views in the denomination as to what should be done at Loma Linda. It eventually became clear in the letter that John Baden was urging our church leaders to adopt the 3rd view described below and push it through to success in state government throughout the nation. In the following letter, you are going to find answers to the puzzling question of how, at that time, we could have obtained official recognition while adhering fully to the blueprint in our medical work. As you would recognize, Baden's letter to Rubel was both a warning and a prophecy. In the following letter, brackets and all emphasis are ours. Loma Linda, California, April 13, 1908. Dr. W. A. Rubel, Tacoma Park Station, Washington, D.C. Opening quote, Dear brother, I regret that I cannot be with you in this special council of the General Conference Committee, as I presume, open bracket, first view, close bracket, some attention will be given to the questions of emphasis, advanced medical work in our schools. Loma Linda has been pushing forward in this line in harmony with the light which has been coming to us for a number of years, and especially since the purchase of this institution and the establishment of the work at Washington. It has seemed to us that the Lord is calling for an advanced medical evangelistic training at both of these centers. We have felt that there are more or less lack of understanding as to just what is called for in this advanced medical educational move. Open bracket, second view, close bracket. Some have felt and have so expressed themselves that all that is called for is what we have been attempting in our sanitarium nurses training school, with perhaps more Bible instruction and field experience added. Open bracket, third view, close brackets. Others have felt that there should be a more advanced training in the theory and practice, both in the science of the healing heart as associated with the work of the third angel's message, and possibly become as recognized as those who graduate and could secure state recognition would be at liberty to practice the healing heart the same as other physicians. Open brackets, fourth view, close bracket. Others have seen no place for medical schools, sort of thoroughly qualified institutions to compete with the medical college of the world. We will designate these various ideas as number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Open bracket, first view, close bracket. Proposition number 1 is everywhere recognized amongst us. It is a work in a measure at least understood. Open bracket, second view, close bracket. The nature, place, and work of number 2 are beginning to be recognized by many. It is readily seen that for foreign missionaries to be qualified with an advanced training in the healing heart, to be capable of diagnosing common diseases and applying what we call rational treatments, would generally increase their usefulness in the work. End of quote. Open brackets. Rational treatments was a phrase commonly used back then for natural remedies, in contrast with the giving of poison, that is, drug medication, to sick people to make them well, which obviously was an irritational type of treatment. Another synonym later used in this letter is hygiene, which also means to clear out and restore. For the same reason, our early workers called their treatment centers sanitariums, since they only gave natural remedy which were sanitary and cleansing. They sanitize or clear out and restore the body to health. In contrast, the hospitals of the world dose the patients with dangerous chemicals. It is easy today to identify poisonous drugs. They are the ones which have contraindications, a euphemism for dangerous side effects. Close brackets. Quote, this is the work that was recommended at the medical convention held at Loma Linda, that the Loma Linda College of Evangelists should strengthen its faculties to carry forward. This work was also endorsed at the Pacific Union Conference held at St. Helena a few months ago, and it was there recommended that the Union Conference and the General Conference unite to help to carry forward this work, particularly in the way of furnishing the school with such instructors as were available. Opening brackets. Third view recommended by Baden, close brackets, as the legitimate of California has opened the way for the students of such a school as the Loma Linda College of Evangelists to be legally recognized to practice sanitarium methods of healing or rational remedies. Some have felt that it would be wise to have the school characterized under the law that such students as complete the entire 3 years course and whose qualification enable them to pass the state examination might be free to work as other recognized physicians. That is, they hold position in our institution and comply with all the requirements of the law. This we would designate as proposition number 3. Otherwise, no matter how well qualified they may be to do the work, they would of necessity have to labor as nurses under the direction of legally qualified physicians. Close quotation. Opening brackets. At the time Baden wrote this, state governments recognized natural remedies equally with drug medication. Close quote. Quote, open bracket, continuing the third view, close brackets. Our understanding of the testimonies is that while thousands are to be quickly qualified for thorough medical evangelistic work, some are qualified to labor as physicians. We have been instructed again and again to make the school as strong as possible for the qualifications of nurses and physicians and the opening of a way for its recognition, and especially in view of the fact that California heretofore have been one of the most difficult states for medical practitioners to gain recognition in, seemed to us a divine providence, opening bracket, that they let us continue teaching according to the blueprint, close bracket, come as it did the next year after we had started our school. End of quote. Open brackets. Note that Baden earlier limited these to practice sanitary methods of healing or rational remedies. Baden did not approve of drug medication because he knew the spirit of prophecy was totally opposed to it. See chapter 16 in our Medical Missionary Manual, page 229 to 254. Opening quote. The battle was fought by the osteopaths, but, opening bracket, instead of only approving the osteopaths, close bracket, the legislature then threw the gate wide open for any school whose requirements for entrance to the medical course were equally to a high school preparation on the 10 fundamental branches that underlie medical education. End of quote. Open bracket. Satan was working diligently to close the door so our physicians would not be able to operate legally unless they acceded to using drug medications, radiations, and all the rest. Surely as we look back on it today, the situation looked hopeless and our medical work was destined to eventually be gobbled up by AMA accreditation control, which occurred. Opening bracket. But the above paragraph reveals what might have been if we had fought for legal recognition of natural remedy treatments using herbs, water therapy, and the 8 laws of health. God would have opened the door for us to have it. The osteopaths fought the battle and gained what they wanted. The chiropractors also fought the battle and gained legal approval of their method of treatment. More recently, nurse practitioners have gained the right to practice basic medicine without an MD degree, in spite of opposition from the AMA. It could have been done, and God would have opened the door for us. Opening bracket. Think not that this is an ideal dream. Read our Medical Missionary Manual. It was God's plan to enable our right arm to extend itself and open doors for third angel's message evangelism throughout the world. The use of natural remedy alone, the only medical method which adheres strictly to obedience to the law of God, could have had outstanding success if we had been willing to remain with them. But instead, between 1912 to 1922 and onwards, we gradually complied, step by step, with every requirement placed before us by the AMA's councils on medical education. Because of our compliance, the AMA gained a full lock grip on medical and nursing education. The AMA's hidden objective is simple enough: require that only those methods of treatments be used which make money for drug and medical appliance manufacturers. And what are they? Things that can be patented. It is well known fact that those manufacturers funnel kickback money to AMA coffers through expensive ads placed in the journals of the AMA. The vast wealth of the drug manufacturers is legendary. Open quote. Materia medica and surgery are both thrown out, so that is a good, thorough school of hygiene or rational practice would have no difficulties of being recognized in this state. Open brackets. Materia medica was a Latin word, medical material, meaning anything swallowed, injected or applied topically to the skin. In the 19th century, this included herbs and or poisonous chemical, but since the early part of the 20th century, the phrase includes only drug medications. Were both thrown out, that is, California state law were totally relaxed so that medical schools were not at the time required to instruct in the use of any particular type of materia medica or surgery. Open quote. And should our schools be recognized here, each student would have a vantage ground of which to secure recognition in other states, the same as osteopaths are being recognized. Their healing art is fast being recognized in all the states, but they have had to fight their way to the front with everything against them. Their opening the way will eventually make it easier, for a time at least, for other reputable methods of healing to become recognized. End of quote. Open brackets. This letter was sent to Dr. Rubel to be read to our General Conference leaders. Elder Baden recognized in this an opportunity and was here pleading with the General Conference to step into it. But he explained they would have to fight every inch of the way, for Satan would oppose them. Elder Baden well knew the spirit of prophecy counsels that the natural remedy work was to be entering words for our Revelation 12:17 and 14 verse 6 to 12 message to the world, which was obedience to the law of God by enabling faith in Jesus Christ. Treatment with natural remedy and acceptance of our special truth about the law and the Sabbath go hand in hand. Both teach obedience to the law of God. But unfortunately, in the crucial year of 1910 to 1922, our leaders temporized and lost the opportunity. At the same time, on another front, Satan was working to separate the medical work from the evangelism. He started with Kellogg at Battle Creek, and it intensified in later years as our medical training and physicians became professionalized. Contrary to the blueprint and the third view held by Burden, later were rearranged that only our MDs could diagnose, prescribe, and treat, and they were trained only in drug and surgery whilst generally knowing little about natural remedies. God's plan as revealed through the spirit of prophecy was that only a few of our people were to become fully qualified to deal with the most advanced levels of sickness with natural remedies. Many others were to care for common physical problems with natural remedies. This was Baden's third view. Closing brackets. Quote, it certainly was a great misfortune that the American Missionary College, opening bracket, in Battle Creek, close bracket, was launched under cover of the regular schools rather than under the banner of the healing heart embodied in the third angel's message. And it seems to some of us that we shall make the same mistakes they did if we undertake to follow their examples in establishing a medical school whose very standard, if it is at all maintained, means commercialism from first to last, or else the student who graduate from the school will lose their caste, opening brackets, recognized position, close bracket, and standing with those who are following the medical practice of the present day. End of quote. Opening brackets. The American Medical College 1898 to 1910 was started by J.H. Kellogg, who was its sole president. It sought for and received accreditation by having a split campus, with the first 2 years of training at the Battle Creek Sanitarium and the final 2 years at two non-Adventist hospitals in Chicago. It issued 194 MD degree before closing down due to lack of financial support and increasing accreditation demands. It also opened a fully staffed and equipped hospital in Chicago. Close brackets. Opening quote. Not so with a new school which makes its own standard and wins its way by its merits, and that standard, if we understand the message coming to us, is missionary, wrapped and wove with the missionary spirit entirely eliminated, hence the name chosen, medical evangelists. We should like to be present at your council and hear your discussion of these questions. It is extremely interesting to us from the fact that we have had to face the issue and set ourselves to solving it, or else turning down some of the plainest message from the servant of the Lord that we have ever received. We realize that the question is more or less hazy to all, and possibly some see no light in giving it special consideration at this time. But we are of the opinion that God is calling this denomination to a reorganization of its medical work as truly as He called a few years ago for a reorganization of the educational work. Hence, we are moving forward to the best light we can obtain. We are anxious for your counsel and cooperation. We do not wish to be in the position of running ahead of others in this matter, and shall be glad of your counsel and advice. We only write thus fully that our plans and position and work may be clearly understood. We are perfectly willing to consent ourselves for the present with working out the plans and developing persons of ability to carry on work as medical evangelists. If it is thought wise to lay aside the thought of legal recognition of the students when we have completed their course, we are willing to wait, but we feel most deeply that in the light of the opportunities in California, the question of establishing a school whose whole influence in teaching shall be to qualified physicians to practice the distinctive healing art of the third angel's message shall be given careful consideration by those who are interested in this subject and able to judge of the merits of the questions. End of quote. Opening brackets. You will notice that the above two paragraphs could be interpreted by the General Conference as cancelling out the preceding urgent warning. Baden had said, we must make major changes. But then he says, but if you think there is no need of urgency, then we will do that. The problem here is that the church controlled Loma Linda, and Baden could not say otherwise without being fired. Later in this book, we will learn from Dr. Owen S. Parrott's memoirs that Ellen White had not wanted Baden to turn control to Loma Linda over to the church when he did. Baden later recognized that this was his biggest blunder. Close brackets. Opening quote. Fourth view, I am sure that as soon as the question comes up, the first thought will be of opening brackets that the blueprint is merely close bracket a superficial medical education that would be a disgrace to the work of the message unless we can establish the fourth position, there is a fully equipped medical schools after the world's idea, which could become a member of the Association of the American Medical College, open bracket, that is fully accredited, close brackets. I do not believe we should for a moment give continuance to anything of this sort if, opening brackets, as the spirit of prophecy state, close brackets, if such that is now embodied in the medical school of the world is as useless as the maxim of the scribe and the Pharisees. And if there are intricate studies that are a positive injury to the mind of the student, disqualifying him for the work he should do, and again, if much of their course is merely rubbish, would a medical school eliminating these useless things from its work and adding that most helpful healing agency, the influence of the gospel of Christ as revealed in the study of the scripture combined with rational remedies and the 10 fundamental branches taught in harmony therein, would such a school become superficial simply because it stood alone and was not recognized by the modern school of the world? Close quote. Open brackets. In the above paragraph, Elder Baden is pleading with our leaders not to seek accreditation from the secular agency. Close brackets. Open quote. However, as I said before, I believe the essential thing is the qualification of the workers to do the work, and that is what we are seeking to carry forward. If it is God's will that some of these workers, when qualified, shall stand forth in the freedom of the law of the state to practice the healing art of the third angel's message, God will certainly open the way. End of quote. Open brackets. He is once again saying that if we persevere, we can, as have the osteopaths, obtain legal consideration for our advanced trained students to become physicians, fully recognized by the state law without having to submit our school to AMA accreditation requirements. If we will do our part, God will help us do it on our terms and in full agreement with our standards and method of medical work. Closing brackets. Quote, for the coming year, it seems to us the only consistent thing to do is to move forward in harmony with the recommendation passed at the Medical Convention and the Union Conference, which encourage the qualifying of persons with an advanced medical efficiency to work as evangelists. Hence, we shall continue the regular medical evangelistic 3-year course as it is applied heretofore in our calendars. End of quote. Open bracket. In the above paragraph, the workers were to be qualified by taking their training at our uncredited CME. But Baden continues, a 1-year quick course should also be given. Close brackets. Quote, it is also thought best to supplement this with 1 year's very thorough instruction for mature students, such as school teachers, Bible worker, graduate nurse, and ministers who want to secure in a short time all they are capable of taking in of this rational healing art and combining it with the evangelistic work. We are therefore arranging for the best Bible instructor obtainable to carry that line along equally strong with the medical subjects. End of quote. Open brackets. The following is an excellent paragraph, for it outlines the basic subjects taught at CME in its 1-year course. The same basic course were, of course, taught in expanded form in the 3-year program. Close bracket. Quote, The course will embody such subjects as hydrotherapy, practical and theoretical, massage, practical and theoretical, hygiene, physiology, autonomy, dietetic, healthful cookery, healthful dress, the study of disease and diagnosis, and medical evangelistic method of fieldwork. Crowding so much into a year will necessarily make the instruction in each subject somewhat brief, and yet the course will be a wonderful help to those who take it and also in the development of the work. We have asked the conference to release Elder Owen for the Bible walk, and he has consented to come. We hope the General Conference and the Union Conference will see their way clear to cooperate with us in furnishing one instructor each for all or part of the course. Already there are quite a number of advanced students applying to enter this course, several of whom are postponing going to a foreign field until they can secure this preparation. Although some of them have been in school 2 or 3 years preparing in Bible lines for work in mission fields. Our capacity is limited. I am sure if the matter is worked out as the testimonies have suggested and is properly set before the people, there will be a great railing not only for workers now engaged in some parts of the work, but likewise to graduate nurses who started in to become evangelists but have lost the way because the path has not been blazed out sufficiently clear so they could find it. I will enclose extract from the California law, showing what is open in the way of state recognition for us here, that you may study the matter and be able to counsel us later as to the advisability of our planning to take advantage of the law, that the school may be recognized. Praying the Lord to bless you in this coming counsel. We remain yours in the Master's work. Signed, J. A. Burden. Burden letter to W. A. Rubel, April 13, 1908. End of quote. Instead of bedside nurses and physicians, Ellen White wanted evangelical nurses and physicians. The blueprint included the training of large numbers of our laymen and laywomen in shorter course for service as medical missionaries. The scope of the project was breathtaking. An early chapter in our medical missionary manual revealed that the blueprint called for all our people to one extent or another to become medical missionaries. 3 days after sending the above letter to Dr. Rubel, Elder Burden sent a copy to Ellen White accompanied by this letter. Quote, gradually the local brethren, Elder Reza included, are beginning to get clearer views of what the Lord designed this school to be. You will see from the letter to Dr. Rubel, which I enclose something of the way it is shaping in our mind. I noticed in your last communication that you cautioned strongly against the organizing of a school to compete with the medical school of the world, saying that we were not prepared to qualify students to pass examination under the state just now. I think you will see from my letter to Dr. Rubel that our idea of a recognized school at Loma Linda, in which we could qualify patients as doctor of hygiene and rational treatment, would be a far less difficult problem than that undertaken by the Battle Creek School. However, it may not be wise to think of such a school at present, and we had better wait until we have developed the plan of qualifying evangelists thoroughly for their work and they demonstrate the usefulness before we seek for state recognition for our graduates to practice. End of quote. John Baden to Ellen White, April 16, 1908. Baden erroneously imagined that he would be given time to develop the program at Loma Linda, prepare a number of qualified graduates, and then work on obtaining full state acceptance of a full physician's course, equivalent to a MD degree. He was only 46 years old in 1908, but it was A.G. Daniel who was in charge, not John Burden, nor W.A. Rubel. And Daniels, who had been trying to eliminate medicine since 1904, in 1909 would reject Ellen White's call to stop eating meat. He told P.T. Megan in 1911 that it was ridiculous to move out of the cities and was in no mode to be different from the world when it came to our denominational medical work. To inquirers who asked why he, the General Conference president, ate meat all his life, Daniel replied that he felt it was good for him. Within 2 years after he wrote his lengthy letter to Rubel at the General Conference, Baden was effectively pushed aside, even though it was not until 1916 that he was transferred from Loma Linda to Paradise Valley.